Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to the last session. I'm Kirsten.
I'm Kirsten.
And we're here to pump you up.
Oh, yeah.
So,
thank you. If there are any questions.
So, I'm going to go ahead and go through this. Got to give you a warning. I am running a little late. Sorry about that. If you have questions, you just need to use your time machine and go back to yesterday when my office hours were. Assuming that you didn't get the extra special swag in your O'Reilly bag, you can tweet me. If you look at this my attendee profile, you'll find my Twitter handle. And I am perfectly happy to answer any questions. In fact, I will remind you at the end of the talk, there is no code in this talk. However, if you guys have a particular integration that you're interested in trying, I will write that code, probably in the language that you like, assuming that you like interpreted languages. I probably won't do C# code for free. But, so if there's something that you're interested in, seeing how it works, seeing how you would do it, I'm happy to give you some code that'll get you started. I'm Kirsten Hunter. I am currently an API evangelist at Akamai, but I've been working with APIs for a really long time. And one of my personal favorite things is fitness quantifying. I even had the Sport Brain a really long time ago. You actually had to connect it to the phone line to get it to send it to the internet. So I've been interested in this for a very long time, and I know that a lot of other people are. My interest is largely in integration, so I'm going to talk about where those integration points are, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the frustration I have with how the system works right now. I'll go over 5 different devices, not all of the devices that are available, but I'm going to give you an idea of what it is you want to look for, what I enjoy in a particular product, and I will take as many questions as I can without running over, because I know you all want to see the closing talk. So, Kirsten.
So I'm Kirsten Williams, and I direct the robotics and intelligent sensing systems research and development at a little place called Applied Minds down in Glendale, California. And so by day, a lot of what I do is about getting sensors to talk to computers, and but what I'm really passionate about is the smarts. And making these systems easier to interact with, and really torturing as much information as we can out of the sensor data. Now, this used to be a lot harder than it is now. You can hardly open one of these conference room doors without stumbling into an Internet of Things talk. And this is super exciting, because the easier it is to get sensors to talk to computers, the easier it is for me and for my team to get to focus on the stuff we're really passionate about, making things smart, making that interaction with the world more sophisticated. So, for example, if you think back not very long ago, if somebody who is hard of hearing wanted to get a visual indicator that a doorbell had been rung installed in the house, it would require an expensive and specialized installation. But now, with what's available, just click, Amazon Prime, it's there the next day, within a very small number of minutes. Not only could you have a visual indicator that your doorbell had been rung, you might even, if you're feeling fancy, have a camera rigged up, do a little facial detection, and hook that up to your Philips Hue light bulb, and have that flash red for the mother-in-law. So the possibilities are endless. Now, my passion is robotics, but as it turns out, humans make excellent mobile sensing platforms. And so, much like many of you, I can't really leave my work at work. My play looks a lot like my work. I've become quite passionate about outfitting myself with sensors and data dashboards and all that sort of thing. So I'm an avid user of many of the things that Kirsten will be digging into in her more API-focused stuff.
So I did bring a variety of devices. If you guys want to fiddle with them and play with them, that's totally fine. One of the things I actually talk about is how to charge the devices and how they feel on your body. Just because I know that I care deeply about those things, it doesn't matter if you have the most fantastic sensor in the world if you will never wear it. So that's one of the things I'll cover to help you guys make good decisions on what you might want to use. So yes, there are a billion and one fitness trackers, more coming out all the time. I'm not going to talk about all of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an overview of ones that I think are representative of various parts of the market, and let you use that information to help you decide which trackers are right for you. So we'll start with Fitbit. Fitbit is one of the most popular sensors out there. It's not my favorite because all it has is the three-way accelerometer chip that everybody else has. They're focused very strongly on steps and calories, and the kinds of things I want to track about my fitness and my health are different. I want to deal with how much protein I get. I want to deal with, you know, how difficult the exercise was that I did. she's getting steps. So this is, and stairs. Pretty soon her little flower's going to be really excited on the Fitbit. So, so other than the limited biometrics, I will say that their API is really fantastic. They have very good developer support. They have a developer evangelist who works really hard to make sure things work. They integrate with a vast majority of the things that have any kind of integration. So, and MyFitnessPal is one of those things that they integrate with. So, but they integrate with a ton of apps, and because their API is so accessible, it makes it easy to use.
I might also add that if you're prone to washing your fitness devices, I've gone through 4. I have to say, I've washed my most recent one a couple of times, and it's bounced right back. So it's improving.
Yeah, I'm on I think Fitbit number 5. I washed all the other 4. Girls tend to put their Fitbit on their bra, and they don't necessarily think, oh, my bra might have a thing on it that I shouldn't wash. So yeah, that's how it ends up in the washer. They do have a good dashboard on the web. They have some sleep data that they determine. Unfortunately, the Fitbit makes you push button. They do have a good community with friends and badges and other fun stuff. However, their logging is really limited because they don't have any crowdsourcing. So, if you say dancing, okay, these are the kinds of dancing that Fitbit thinks you might do. Those are not the kinds of dancing that I do. I would like to put Zumba on there. If I put Zumba on there, that works great for me, and I have to go look up how many calories it burns. And then, if you want to put Zumba in there, you have to do the same thing. So, it's kind of a pain. So integrating with other systems that have better integration are better, is very helpful. Let's say you eat food that Fitbit doesn't consider to be food. So now you're going to put the food in, and you're going to add all the nutritional information for the food, which you have conveniently located on the food. Like you go to a restaurant, you're like, I'm going to order this thing. I have no idea what the nutritional profile is. The restaurant's not telling me because they're not a big chain. What? So I feel like they could do a better job of this. Again, MyFitnessPal does a much better job. My disappointment with MyFitnessPal is that they only integrate at the days and calories level. And I actually couldn't care less how many calories I eat every day. I want to make sure I eat protein and produce. So I want to track the things that are important to me, and the integration points are just too low granularity for me. So let's talk about body media. You probably all remember the Body Bug and the Body Media Fit and all these awesome things. Yes, this is itchy. It's ugly. It sits on your upper arm. People know that you're a geek. They were going to make a new one that was even better, but then Jawbone bought them and it got killed. I will tell you, however, that the Body Media has a lot of really cool stuff about it. It collects 5,000 data points a minute. It is actually the only device that was approved as a medical device for FDA trials. So this is a solid device, or it was, before Jawbone bought them. Their API used to have a lot more information. It has less now because the API is focused on what Jawbone can do. I'm not thrilled with the charging. You have to remove it from the strap to charge it. It's got a pretty standard USB charger, but I mean, if you have something which, as this one does, automatically checks your sleep data, when are you supposed to take it off to charge it? I mean, you can't wear it and charge it at the same time. So a lot of the advantages of it are kind of turned into disadvantages if you can't wear it all the time.
So I have one of these bad boys, and what I found, having done the controlled experiment myself, was that after the armband gave me a gnarly rash on one arm, and then a gnarly rash on the other arm. I set up my days and did the experiment, tucking it in the bra right about here, and that worked pretty well. The other thing I really like about this guy is that it measures a galvanic skin response. So it has temperature and it has really one of the most accurate metabolic measurements of the devices out there.
Yeah, it does skin temperature and also perspiration. So it uses that to determine what it is that you're doing. It also has the accelerometer that everybody has. So the Jawbone Up, not my favorite, not just because they bought Body Media and took off one of my favorite sensors, but because it's kind of uncomfortable for me. It charges via your headphone port, and there's a little fobby thing that goes over the headphone port that I lost the first time I charged it. So that wasn't so cool. I'm a little absent-minded. There's no website to put input in. They just have smartphone applications. The API is a little too limited for you to make a good website out of it. It has a decent smartphone interface, but again, you have to tell it you're going to go to sleep. And I feel like I get performance anxiety when I tell my device, I'm going to sleep now.
Wait, now.
No, wait. Okay, I'm going to sleep now. So I really like the ones that just look at what I'm doing and say, hey, look at that, her heart rate went down. She's not doing anything. She's really hardly moving. She must be asleep. And then a lot of those start tracking your sleep data. Okay, with things. This is not a device you wear on your hand or your arm. This is a device that actually tells the internet how much you weigh. You might not be interested in that, but it does do a pretty good job of authentication and authorization and making sure other people can't see your stuff, unless, like me, you like to share graphs, in which case you can do that as well. They have a decent API for weight. Once again, just like Fitbit, Withings is integrated with all kinds of things. And it's great because if you have a Fitbit and it's integrated with Withings, they can figure out how many calories you burn based on how much you weigh today. Fitbit is happy to have you have goals so you can get badges when you lose weight, and this way you don't have to input it manually. They also have other devices. They have the Pulse, which I'll briefly say is a pretty good device. It's fairly accurate in terms of steps. It's unfortunate that in order to get a heart rate, you actually have to touch it. I want passive as much as possible. I want to just have the thing and not think about it, and then at the end of the day say, I guess I should go for a walk now. So they have a blood pressure monitor, which also can integrate with your Fitbit, which is great because Fitbit has blood pressure in their graph. They also have a baby monitor, doesn't integrate with much, but they have that. And pretty soon, they're going to have a fitness device that looks nice. Who would have thought? I mean, this is really cool. So everything is analog. How well you're doing in your fitness is the inside one, and then on the outside is the time, and it's really cute. A lot of companies are having Swiss watch manufacturers put that accelerometer in there and create watches that look like a watch someone might wear if they wore stuff on their wrist. Okay, so I told you I like people to look at my weight graphs just to get an idea of how Withings keeps track of your information and presents it. Most of the devices have fairly decent graphs and charts. The Withings is a pretty simple device, and their graphs and charts are pretty simplistic, but at the top is my weight. At the bottom is my fat percentage. You can see that just like all other fat percentages, it's all over the map, but you can also see that there's a pattern to it. So this is why it's okay to have a device that isn't perfect in terms of how it measures your fat percentage, because if you use that same device every day, you're going to be able to see patterns. You're going to understand if I'm going in the right direction or not.
And the nice thing here is if you do have those noisy measurements, having access to your data lets you model that noise and get a better feeling for, okay, is this a source of noise that's just in the natural system, or is this a bias from my device? Right.
So this is my favorite device. They don't have an API, but the basis, this is the basis, actually passively keeps track of all of the things that the Body Media kept track of. So skin temperature, perspiration, the three-way accelerometer, like everything else. But they have passive heart rate. Passive heart rate means that I actually know what my resting heart rate is. And as someone who has a fitness personal trainer certificate from, 15 years ago or something, I can tell you that resting heart rate is one of the best ways to determine, A, what's your overall fitness looking like? And B, is today the day I should do that long run? So last night, I might have been up, dancing, out at the bar, hanging out with friends, really doing exciting stuff. And now instead of 60 as my resting heart rate, it's 80. That says I didn't actually sleep very well, and I probably shouldn't push myself too hard, or I'm going to, hamper my immune system. So the basis, I'm not going to show you guys live because the OSCON wireless is a little twitchy, as you might have noticed. But I encourage you to go look at the MyBasis website and see what their charts and graphs are. They are amazing. They have calories burned, and you can overlay the different things. You can actually look at, for sleep, it tells you when it thinks you're in REM, deep sleep, light sleep, whether you tossed and turned. It gives you a score for your sleep, so you can compete with yourself to do sleep. And the other thing that I really love about the Basis is their intent is to measure what you do and then make suggestions. So I see that you sit around all day long between 9 and 5. Let's have a habit that we're trying to make of get up at least once an hour between 9 and 5. Hey, I see that you don't actually do anything before noon. Why don't we try to get 2,000 steps in before noon every day, at least 5 days a week? So they have these habits, that they suggest, or you can pick them, and then it passively measures what you do. I would prefer that it give me an electric shock if I'm getting close to something that I'm not supposed to do, but I'm okay with being able to sync it to my iPhone and see that I'm not meeting those goals. If I get to the end of the day and, oh man, I didn't do that 2,000 steps this morning, okay, great. Now I know, I have 6 more days this week to make that goal. They don't really give you badges or all that, but it's actually a great way to sort of consider your health and your fitness as an ongoing process instead of, I'm going to the gym now, okay, now I'm done. And it actually tells you if it thinks you should sleep more. So if you're one of those, 4 to 6 hours of sleep, whether you need it or not, and you're not getting a high sleep score because you're not getting enough deep sleep or REM sleep, it'll make a habit suggestion. Hey, you should probably spend a little more time asleep so that your body's a little happier.
As a proponent of the Internet of Things, I got to say, when they do finally release an API for this thing, then it should be no problem to actually integrate that,
right,
electric shock response. Or if you've done really well, it might unlock your freezer.
Yeah, so you can get some ice cream.
Yeah.
Or you can have a Philips light bulb that's red when you start the day and green if you get all your stuff done. See, I'm down with any kind of ambient rewards for me. It doesn't have to be a badge that I can put on my website. I could have a lot of badges on my website. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pebble because you probably are like, ooh, the Pebble. You can make whatever you want. Okay, so you can make apps. You write code in C. It's not it's not a REST API. It's not a web service. You are writing to directly code that will directly run on the Pebble. It does have an accelerometer. That's the only biometric data that it will grab. But if all you want is a device that it has an accelerometer and you can write apps for, your phone works great. Moves is a fantastic battery sucker. But it also actually does a great job. It just runs in the background. Every day it tells me how many steps I took. It actually will figure out where you are and where you walked and where you rode the bike, and you can name those places so you know where you went. And as far as passive goes, this is awesome. Although your iPhone 5 is not gonna make it. The 5S has the lower energy accelerometer stuff, and so it's less likely to die. But even so, Moves has a very simple API because all they track is steps and GPS information. However, if you just want the most basic fitness tracker, this one's awesome.
And these things should get more and more battery efficient as these motion coprocessors become more prevalent and widespread in our mobile phone market.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk really briefly about API Commons. One of the things that I would really like to see, especially in the fitness area, where everybody is measuring the same thing the same way, and as a developer I have to integrate with them all differently, that kind of stinks. So there's a new project, an open project called API Commons, where the idea is that you can check the schema for your API into a GitHub repository, and other people can fork those and say, okay, I'm using the user from over there, and I'm using the calories from over here, and I'm using the steps from over here. So now, all of a sudden, developers don't need to learn how your API represents weight or steps. You know, you can just move it to another one, especially if you're trying to integrate two systems that do similar things to make sure that you have all of that information into something that's essentially a graph. You can do it much more quickly, and I think that that will improve the value and the level of sexy integrations we have within this sensor community. Aggregators are nice. I am a little unhappy about the health kit. You'd think I'd love that thing, but guess what? That's going to be the opportunity for Apple to take your fitness data and keep it. It's not an API. I can't write a website for it. I don't even have a lot of faith that they're going to give me that data back. However, I have a plan. When HealthKit comes out, I'm going to make an app that's like, get my stuff. Pull all the stuff, all of the things from the HealthKit. So I can put it somewhere that I want, or I can use it for some other kind of integration. I don't like closed systems. I didn't like Google App Engine for the same reason. I want to be able to get my stuff. You measured my body. You have measurements that I made. It's cool for you to have them, and I don't even want you to delete them, but at least you should make them accessible to me, sorry. So Fitbit also has a graph. It's a pretty decent graph. They have a lot of things that the Fitbit doesn't do. Like I was talking about blood pressure, glucose, other kinds of biometric data. So if you had a glucose monitor that knew how to talk to the internet, you could automatically integrate with Fitbit, or you can just put that information in there manually. So they have a decent graph. I actually prefer the Runkeeper graph. You wouldn't think that a company that makes one app that does only running would be all that fantastic, but they have a really comprehensive graph, and so my intent would actually be to take my Fitbit and maybe my Withings Pulse and my Withings Scale and some other things and shove them all into this sort of grand central station, so then I can create applications that analyze that data. Okay, so we're getting close to the end. In summary, it's an immature industry, and I'm actually really unhappy to say that my talk this year is not that different from my talk last year. I was hoping for innovation, and instead we went backwards. The best device on the market was going to come out, the Body Media was going to come out with a heart rate monitor, and it was going to be less gross looking. It looked sort of like a tribal gold thing, and it looked like it might not be super painful. But my guess is that Jawbone doesn't want to go to the medical device market. I think it's a lot of work, and so they're trying to make a consumer device that is a little better than the Jawbone, but not quite as good as the Body Media, which makes me sad because I want that data. We should not only target people who don't care about data. Data geeks should get their classy little sensors without having to strap an Arduino to their wrist. So,
but if that's what it takes.
Exactly. I was just thinking today, hey, I could make a sensor watch, and it would have all the things I wanted. That optical scanning for heart rate is a little tricky, but I'm sure I could do something. I'm also extremely disappointed in the nutrition availability of APIs. As I said, MyFitnessPal has an excellent way to put in your food and even your activities. It does crowdsource a lot of things, so there are 72 different ways to have a venti Starbucks latte. But once you've started using things, it remembers what you did before, so you don't have to look at it every time. But if you're going to integrate at the calories per day level, it's going to be minimally useful to me. I can't get what I need out of that. So biometric sensors need to improve. We need to see the industry move more towards what the Basis does, what the Body Media used to do. Give people all the information they need, and don't ask them when they go to sleep. I mean, that's just weird.
Are you sleeping now?
No, I'm not sleeping now. No, my
about
Basis
now?
is happy. So what I would really like for them to do is think about the big data implications, especially with a single user, but just in general, I want them to think about all of the things that somebody might want to do with this data: food, fitness, heart rate, blood pressure, and figure out how to integrate them in a meaningful way so that I can get a picture of my overall health that's meaningful for me. I might want to exercise in a different way than everybody else does. So let me choose. Okay, all intelligent discourse on the internet ends as soon as someone posts a picture of a cat. There's a picture of the cat. So I'm done. Does anybody have any questions? Also, we have Body Media Fit. We have the weird Basis charger, which actually goes on your arm so you can charge it while you're working. You guys can come up after, or she'll bring them out to you. We have a couple Fitbits and yeah, it's all good. Yes.
When you were talking about, I want to eat protein, vegetables, and stuff like that, what is a good food tracker?
The MyFitnessPal is a fine food tracker. They just have a closed API that integrates only at the calories per day level.
Right.
And I've asked for access to their beta 7 times and included that I wanted to talk about them at a conference with a bunch of people who might be interested in their API, and they don't respond to me. So it makes me sad.
Their apps and interfaces will tell you how many cups of the different vegetables you've had and how many grams of protein today and those things and how much fiber. But
I'm about to go to Scrapey and just look at their website and get the information I want and integrate it that way, which of course is not the right answer, but that's my answer. Yes?
So are there any open protocols for the local data, just accessing it without involving third parties?
In some cases, usually it's not directly from the device, it's from the device to the smartphone, and then some of the applications that the smartphone have might, for instance, integrate with a Google Glass, or you can access the information from the smartphone. This is more true, of course, with the Android than it is with the iPhone, which is a more closed system. But in a lot of cases, they make it so that, and the other thing is that if you have a low energy Bluetooth receiver, you should be able to use that to pull the data as well. Most of them don't store it locally, though.
Are they proprietary from the device to?
Depends on the device. There is an ANT protocol that is much more open. Few fitness sensors have it. There's a couple of Wahoo things that you can use for your bicycle rides and stuff. And it's open, and that one is designed to be open. So that's a groovy thing, and you actually get it for your iPhone or with a fob or something else. So yes. So your heart rate actually sort of helps you determine your stress levels. Your heart rate can help you determine a lot of things. I just recently learned about ultradian rhythms, which is the rhythm of when you're sleepy versus when you're awake. And one of the things you can do to monitor that is watch your heart rate, because if you are trying to stay awake when your body's trying to fall asleep, you're going to be pumping the adrenaline. That's how you stay awake when you're fighting it. So the heart rate can actually tell you, am I stressed? Your body, when it's stressed, gives you biometric data. So the more of that you can measure, the better you can tell. So there isn't one that's specifically for that, but I think that you could probably make a pretty rational comparison yourself, especially if you know that you're stressed and you look at the biometric data, and then you look at the biometric data when you're lying around reading a book, and you're like, okay, what's different? Like, how do I get this to look like that?
Well, and this is a good opportunity for data geeks like us to take advantage of the mood information we already put out there. So as far as passive, like sensor to gauge your mood, that's a little ways off, still in the realm of research. But there are all these ways that we tell our social networks how we're feeling, whether it's Facebook or our mood indicators on various instant messaging things. And so you could certainly integrate some of the biometric data and then grab your various mood indicators and do the analysis to see, okay, so for myself, do I notice any trends here? And try to see, look at that correlation and see if you can discern any cause that you may be able to leverage in overall improving your day-to-day.
Yes? I do, but I'm not going to share it at this time. They have one, it's on their roadmap. Their current system is not all that excellent. It's used for their mobile device and their websites. I say that I can't really. So I actually interviewed to be the API project manager for them 2 years ago. So I feel like it was on their roadmap then too. So I feel like it's kind of a fool me once thing. But they did get acquired by Intel, and Intel is strongly committed to the Internet of Things and having APIs for the devices that they have. So I feel like they will have the resources that they need, which was really, they were resource constrained. So they'll have the resources they need. Mastery is also part of Intel now, so they have some fantastic API engineers that they can work with. So I am hopeful that if I give this talk again next year, I'll be able to say, and the basis has this awesome API. Because
requests from Rabid fans.
Yeah, I mean, I go talk to them frequently about how much I would love for them to have an API. Any other questions? Yes?
Runkeeper is awesome for running, but it seems like all of the weight training apps are not awesome. Do you know of one?
I do not. It's very difficult, especially when you are working with biometric sensors. When you have the perspiration, heart rate, and skin temperature, you can tell better how many calories you're burning, but not the weight and all of that stuff. They haven't done a really good job with that. Yes?
They're in the process of creating one called Atlas Wearables.
Right, I've heard of them. I actually pre-ordered one. I anticipate that it will arrive sometime next year. Just
maybe
because
before this talk, maybe after.
Yeah, maybe before this.
And in the meantime, I can actually manually track myself on democracy. They're pretty good for tracking.
Yeah, and they have the social aspect of making fun of your friends, which is great. I always like, I mean, training with another person is good. I mean, there's a Gym Pact, which doesn't track what you're doing, but it tracks whether you went to the gym or not and charges you money if you don't and gives it to all the people who did. So, that's kind of fun. There's a lot of different ways that we can gamify fitness, which is great because most of us don't feel like it's play. And the closer we can make it to play, the more likely we are to say, instead of, oh God, I have to go running now, we can say, oh, I get to go running. I think Zombies Run was a great example of somebody making unique content, making a story that you run through. Right, so while you're running, like you pick up stuff, and then you can go back to the thing. You have to get away from zombies. You can sprint to get away from zombies. So it's like periodically there's sprinting, and it asks you how many times you want that to happen. Plays your playlist, and then it breaks in and says, oh my God, there's zombies attacking the base. You have to get over to here, and if you have a health kit, anyways, it's fun. It's a fun game, and it makes me want to go outside and play. So that's what we all should want to do. Okay, I'm going to close it off. We're about 5 minutes early, but this is the last session, and you guys probably want to try to grab something to eat or drink before the closing session. So thank you very much, and do tweet if you have any questions.